So Hila the Killa, the only thing I know about her is her glyphosate video, which was fucking awesome and tore up our Insta. But what do you know about her?
Well, so what's funny is I randomly got an email that said that she was coming to the Smithsonian Arts and Future exhibit a couple of weeks ago when you were away. And I was like, I'll go see what she's up to. I'll see what her whole, brand style is as an eco rapper. So I went to the museum and she performed, and it was really cool and fun and positive. And her raps are funny. There's a comedic element to it. So like she's talking about soil in the context of getting dirty. She's talking about things that are important and that people should know about, but in a way that's really accessible. So she wrote a song called WAP in reference to, that very popular Cardi B song. But it was about, she can tell you what it was about. It was about something funny. But she also talks about humans and their relationship to Earth in a way that I think is really important, with reminders that we are of the Earth, we love the Earth, and she's running around wearing an Earth costume. So she's very fun and playful, but she's also sharing information that is important. So she just posted a video about foraging, and she posted a video about how to recycle cigarette butts. And she did a video about seahorses and how they reproduce. So
why do you think this is an important strategy in this historical moment? Like, who do you think she's speaking to, or like, what kind of change do you think she's creating?
Yeah, I think she's definitely reaching a younger audience because from what I understand, I think she got her start on TikTok. And I think there's a very important place for humor, particularly for younger audiences, because there's so much existential dread, particularly around the environment, especially for Gen Zers and young millennials and whatever the next generation is.
Generation Alpha. I looked it up.
Okay, Generation Alpha. There's a lot to be really, really negative about, particularly with the environment. We're just watching it happen before our eyes. And we need a space to learn and find value in the environment while also being able to have some level of levity about it, being able to find creativity in all of the chaos.
Hila the Killa, welcome to the Zoom room.
Oh, 1 second, I am not hearing anything yet. Here we go. Okay.
Okay, we can hear you now. Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Look at that background. Intergalactic. Thanks so much for taking the time to do this.
Oh, yeah, of course. Sounds
so
awesome. So excited.
Yeah, I mean, to give you the 411 on the podcast, did you guys meet in person when you went to her show? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Is that how we booked her?
Yes.
Great. We are fangirling you. So Center for Food Safety, potentially soon to be named Center for Food and Earth, or Center for Food and Ecology. We're not sure.
Cool.
Sort of tapped Julia and I to create a podcast for the organization that would help bring our comms into the 2022s. And Center for Food Safety is primarily a public interest litigation shop. So we typically sue the government for failing to use the laws Congress put in place to protect animals and human beings and water and land and soil.
Amazing.
So as you can imagine, our messaging can be rather dry, and legalistic, which doesn't mean it's not really fucking important and we don't have really great stories to tell. But in creating a podcast, our central question became less about like, why is glyphosate bad? And what's the relationship between soil and climate, which is important and we all need to talk about it, but more about like, what are we going to do about the tandem multi-front master crises that is happening in the collective right now?
Mm-hmm.
And why don't we tell the story of what are we going to do about it through the voices and viewpoints of activists? And
Cool.
the activists that we've interviewed, we've tried really hard to pull together a really vast range of people. We're interviewing Vandana Shiva tomorrow.
Oh my God, amazing.
Yeah, totally.
I love her. She's amazing.
Yes.
Cool.
We interviewed Mackenzie Feldman. I don't know if you know her. She's a young activist who's leading the herbicide-free campus movement across the United States.
Very cool. Mackenzie
Feldman.
Oh my God, yes.
She was another young person that we.
Yeah, that is so cool. No, I mean, like the whole reason I wrote the glyphosate song was because I met some student activists in Sarasota who were trying to get the glyphosate off of their campus. And then
Awesome.
we were talking, and I was like, "Oh my God, I'm gonna write this song."
Yeah, you are great.
So that's
no,
cool.
I mean, I guess why don't you tell us, like,
Mackenzie.
How did you get started?
Wow. I guess with which part? The performing I've done my whole life. I'm just love performing. I love acting. I love singing, rapping, everything. And with the eco activism, I really got started sort of by trying to live a zero waste lifestyle. And that led me to learning a lot more about ecology and the earth and soil and how to grow food. And when I just kind of decided to merge those things with my musical collaborator, Nathan, we like began writing songs about plastic and bringing your own cup and soil health and compost. And so these things kind of just organically grew very much that way. It wasn't just like one turning point. It must have been a million turning points that led me here.
So just so I'm clear, like, where are you from originally?
I grew up in New York City in Lower Manhattan. Okay. I famously tell people that there wasn't a single tree on my street growing up. And my parents didn't really expose me to a lot of nature growing up either. So I was very much a city kid, still a city kid out here in Bushwick now. My neighborhood has a lot more trees. So I'm really happy about that.
Thanks, Brooklyn. So you have this journey of sort of maybe eco blindness as a child, and then you come into this awakening wanting to lead a zero waste lifestyle. What led you to that moment? The zero waste lifestyle.
There was a few things, I guess. It was like something that, I don't know. I mean, I guess Burning Man might have been a really great catalyst, because felt like when I went there, I was like, oh, this is like a big city like New York, but we're in the desert and there's no trash bins anywhere. And oh, excuse me, sorry about that. And yeah, when I went to Burning Man, it was just like a city like New York, but there were no trash bins anywhere, and people were very aware of trash. Everybody was yelling "moop, moop" whenever anything would fall off the ground. Just even having that awareness, like to not wear something that might come off you, like sequins or feathers, because there's such high winds there, and that anything that comes off you is moop. I just never thought about that. I never
just for
even
our listeners,
moop
means matter out of place.
Right.
So,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Which is what everyone yells when any matter falls out of place. And that concept like really hit for me. So when I came back to the city after my first burn, I was just like, oh, there's all this trash left over from the packaging that I left behind. I kind of want to continue this here. There's no reason to not have this awareness now. So like the bring your own cup thing, like that is something that has been so easy for me to just remember to do. And I love it as a performance and as a lifestyle choice to bring a cup around, bring utensils around, things like that. It doesn't always prevent trash from happening. And I don't always think that it's the consumer's responsibility to carry around all their camping gear whenever they want to get a drink or something. But that was like the entry point for me to like start really caring and thinking about where things go, where they come from, how things are made, the cycle of life, really.
So you have been using a lot of social media platforms, right, to create Hila the Killa, TikTok and Instagram specifically. And I'm just curious, as a younger activist, what have you noticed? What has the reception been? Who's your audience primarily? And how do you feel like comedy plays a role in activism?
Wow. Yeah, my Instagram and TikTok are full of incredible, incredible people, honestly. It's such a cool community. I asked a question one time. It was like, what do you imagine your community role to be? And I was so surprised by how many people responded farmer. And like, the types of things that people are inspired by that follow me are really, really cool. Like people want to help people find housing. They want to green up urban areas. They want to excavate concrete. They want to clean up the rivers. It's like, it's just people that care about the earth and care about other people, I think. And the response I've been getting is extremely positive. Everyone loves the message. They love the delivery of the message. They think it's fun. They think it's engaging. And that's kind of the role that I hope comedy is playing in this, is that it gives people a sense of hope, a sense of joy and empowerment. So when like I say something that is funny or empowering, that people take that instead of feeling like, oh no, the world's ending. It's like, actually, I'm smart enough to understand this and I can go do something. So that's kind of what I'm hoping is happening.
It reminds me, we did an interview with a meditation teacher, Mark Coleman. He leads a program called Awake in the Wild. And we were asking him sort of after that same moment, like, what's the function of meditation in eco-activism? And he too was sourcing, like, we need to be resourced. We need to feel full so that when we go and face the grim and the depressing, we have something to draw from. Because frankly, the New York Times does not feel like a resource to me sometimes in terms of how it energetically drains me.
Yeah, the New York Times is really interesting because when we were releasing the compost music video, I was so surprised by how little coverage about compost the New York Times has ever done, ever. And the most recent article that I'd seen at the time was about Vivian Lynn, who does Ground Cycle, and she's amazing. And I was so happy to see that article because it was really like one of the first and only articles that they have about New York City composting, even though New York City has an incredible, robust community composting. Like, like so many people compost here, more than in other cities that I've been to. And yeah, it doesn't get a lot of attention, specifically in that newspaper.
I wanted to loop back to Burning Man because I think Burning Man is a cultural exercise of this moment that's attempting to do a little bit of what you're attempting to do, which is like resource us in a different way. Like, what role do you think art plays in activism generally? Like, how has that worked for you as someone who wants to make the world a better place?
When I think about art, I think about beauty, aesthetic, inspiration. I think that art has the power to inspire people and tap into parts of their mind and their spirit and emotions that other things might not. Art is very subjective. It's very, everyone kind of interacts with it differently. So when an artist is coming to a project and they're like trying to express something in a way that can connect to as many people as possible, that has a very powerful, you know, thing to do. So I think it plays a very important role, actually. I think that things need to be accessible. So the more art, the more just vastness that we have in the communication around these ideas, the more people will be able to access it and be inspired by it.
Mm.
So Burning Man is like great for that, because a lot of artists go out there to really share their art, and their only motivation is to share the art. It's not really about the money or the fame or any of that,
Yeah, it's
which is
also
cool.
like, I think we sometimes think of art as only painting or sculpture, but art is also a lifestyle. Art is living from the creative. And that's something that Burning Man and the broader burning community has resourced me, is that every day can be a burn for me if I
Yeah.
choose to like be in that creative self-wielding mode. And you can kind of take your Burning Man experience and bring little elements into your life, whether it's going zero waste, which, you know, we can talk about that journey, but
Oh my
also
gosh. Yeah, we can.
living a different
Absolutely.
subjectivity, you know, and giving yourself permission to live that way.
Yeah, there were a lot of things that were really inspiring to me there. Even just in the principles, like I love the concept of radical self-expression and of radical self-reliance, even though my research has led me to believe in interdependence and like community a lot more. But I think that even when you come into a community, having a sense of like, I can take care of myself, if you can, if you're able, then that's a really great thing to do. And then also the self-expression, like having more people's voices be heard, having more of us in positions of power in government, having us more engaged in our communities is can only be a good thing, I think. So those principles, and of course leave no trace, to me is like so important. But even beyond that, I think leaving a positive trace is actually even better.
Mm.
Yeah, so it sounds like a lot of your work there's a lot of importance in having a community orientation. And so I would love to know if you consider yourself a community organizer, and also how you see social media as a format for promoting organizing. And if you think it has the same efficacy as traditional modes of organizing.
Yeah. Well, as an artist who does a lot of work by myself, I don't find myself too often like organizing community events, but that is definitely something that I would be very interested in doing. I would love to bring people in my. I don't know why this has happened. So sorry. I'd
Don't
like
worry,
to
we
put on
can edit it
silent.
out.
Yeah, I just don't like understand because there's no alarms. It's just being weird. Um, So I'll just restart that question. So, yeah. So, as someone who does a lot of work by myself, I don't find myself too often organizing community events, but that's something that I would really like to do. And because there's a lot of things, even just in my neighborhood, that I would love to bring the community into, um, by like, going to the sprinklers at the park and having everyone, dance and get wet on a hot summer day or anything really, or a cleanup event, things like that. But I do participate in a lot of those things. So I love going to cleanups. I love sharing with the community, especially my local neighborhood, about all the different eco things that they can participate in, like the zero waste store or the compost or whatever, anything that they can do, the parks, just like keeping people informed and the things that matter to me, where the trees are, what they are, anything that is like cool like that. Um, but I think that, yeah, any community organizing that I would do would definitely involve costumes and a party and music and dancing and connecting with the outdoors, connecting with nature, bringing your own cup, like not creating any waste. I think that's like part of the kind of organizing that I would be interested in leading.
So we did an interview this morning with a guy, Baltimore Velasquez. Did I say that right? Velasquez.
Yeah.
And he helped found a farm labor organizing organization that's helped effectively organize laborers that under federal law are not protected by sort of classic labor protections. And it's one of the things that's cool about this podcast is you get to sit down for storytelling time with your elders who have a little more experience, a lot more. But he was telling this story of his first organizing campaign, and that at that time, the elders in his life like blew him off and were like, you were just some idealistic college student. He was the only person in the farm labor camp who had ever been to college. So they were kind of like, you don't really know what you're talking about. And he realized like, oh no, actually I need to organize first my dad and get my dad to organize his. So when I think of organizing, it's that moment when we actually start to shift people's opinions and we really start to change their behaviors. And I wonder if we're forgetting how important that intergenerational outreach is. And so how do you find yourself in the crosshairs of that intergenerational disdain where they think your work is silly or you're too idealistic? And like, how do you handle that?
I haven't really received very much feedback like that. I find that a lot of the feedback I get from younger generation, like people who are younger than me and people who are older than me, is generally positive. Yeah, I've never ever had anyone say that I'm too idealistic, um, which is surprising because I think maybe I might be. um, but yeah, I would actually really like to bring more of the intergenerational, like, I would love to integrate more generations and more people of all ages together. I think that there's so much to learn from my elders, and there's so much to learn from the youth and people who are younger than me. I'm really inspired by kids and young adults and just like their perspective, because so much of their work now is to organize and do these things. So a lot of the time when I'm making these music, like these videos, I'm really making it for them. Like I want them to be like using these things as like educational tools and also like anthems. I kind of see a lot of the music that I make as like anthemic to the green revolution, or I'm hoping that it is. So that's kind of the goal for the future, and also to, you know, connect everybody. Yeah, I love that question because I think, yeah, it's about bringing everybody together. But I don't, yeah, for whatever reason, haven't, maybe I'm blocking it out. I don't know. I don't see it.
Well, in that vein, I'd love to know, I mean, how do you see your position as an eco rapper evolving? How would you love to wield it and use it in the future? And how would you like to engage with it moving forward? Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many ideas and ways in which I can see this evolving. But one of the main things is that I would love to collaborate with more artists and get other people to do this, to make environmental music or educational music, or even just like work with like bigger artists that would want to put me on a song and have like an eco verse. I would love to find myself in schools and at farms and in great like eco projects, and also to like influence legislation and city planning. I think like I would really love to be taken seriously with like how this information can be communicated, but also what it means. You know, why do we need to protect the water? Why does every single water source that we have need to be protected? And then to like make moves, because I feel like these projects will never happen unless there's enough people who are like, this has to happen. We have to move all of the industry away from Newtown Creek, all of it. And that's really like needs to happen. And New York can do that because New York is like constantly changing. So I don't know, maybe like if I can get to the point of like mainstream music where there's so many fans, there's so many people, and they're all behind the message, then maybe we can like really have this like collective movement with other artists, and like I just want to influence other artists. Like if I can make it so big and everybody's like, okay, well, I need an Earth song, or I need to do, because like Little Dicky has his Earth song, but for whatever reason that wasn't super impactful, I think, because it didn't really say anything. Like there wasn't anything really about the Earth. He just like shouted out a bunch of animals, some of which might be going extinct, but you wouldn't even know listening to that song. um, that was, I think, also a move in the right direction, because it was a song about the Earth, and that's great.
Yeah, I mean, just to offer some wisdom that was imparted on us this morning, and like something to think about is, for Baltimore, his insight was like, we actually have to really continue to understand that organizing is not informing. They're different.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to draw people into the work, knowing where they're at, but also calling them into something higher. And I do think that fame is a platform for sure, but it's not a substitute for that genuine, like, human connection that comes from sitting down and being resourced in how to start changing your life and like the life of others. And I'm reminded of, in Hawaii, which is where I live and make most of my magic, Jack Johnson is our sort of model for someone who's taken his fame seriously and built like a wraparound to his work that's really actually deeply empowered communities. So every time he throws a concert, he has an ethical supply chain all around it. And then he has a bazaar for local nonprofits so they can go and table at the concert. And then he donates most of the proceeds of his concerts, at least in Hawaii, to a longstanding nonprofit that does continued work over time on issues that he really cares about, which just happen to be environmental waste and beach cleanup. So I think he's a great model for someone who's like, it's not just about the message and the music. It's also about taking the attention that comes to me and shining that light on other people.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that. That completely aligns with how I feel about anything that I do. I was like, oh my God, you're so great. And I'm like, I'm the Earth. You're so great. Like, because I really do believe that. I think that, if people see me and they're like, oh, I love what you're doing, that to me is like, oh, you're ready to be, another Earth warrior. Like, if you love this, then you're this. That's what you are. So I really try to do that. I think empowerment and empowering people, other people, to like see their power and their light and the way that they can impact the world in a positive way is such a big part of why I do what I do and why I'm here informing about the Earth cycles. I mean, a lot of the education, the way that the things I choose to educate about are things that have inspired me to go deeper into like why it matters at all to care for the Earth or to understand it better. And then you're better equipped to making decisions about what to build, what to not build, how to organize a city, how to be in community with other people. And these are all things that, of course, I'm still learning because it's an ongoing learning process. But I love that because, yeah, even when I do shows, I'm always like, is it possible to get Cup Zero at this event? Like, can we do this and this and this? Like, I try, because it's all part of it. Every place that I show up at, I want it to be holistic and for the message, for the goal. Yeah.
So what has been your favorite projects thus far?
I mean, they're all so great. There's actually a project that I'm working on right now that's like, I mean, it's not like super secret. It's going to come out very soon, so I might as well tell you about it. But I am working on a mycelium mushroom anthem. And
nice.
it's like one of the best songs ever that I've ever been a part of. I'm working with a producer, he's Colombian, and we're kind of fusing like reggaeton with Middle Eastern like sort of music. So it's like this like fusion, and the whole song is just like a mycelium like explosion of information and funny like wordplay and just really, really cool. So I'm like working on that right now, and I'm going to be performing it at Myco Fest, which is this ongoing mycelium arts and music festival in Pennsylvania. I think it's their 8th annual year this year. So I'm like one of their headliners. Um, and so I get to premiere this song there, and I'm just like so excited about it because, yeah, I think mushrooms are incredible. The more I learn about mushrooms, the more I'm like, okay, maybe we're not doomed because they can, eat oil, and they regenerate. They're literally the breaking down of the regenerators of our planet. And the more that I learn about them, the more I feel a lot of hope. I feel a lot of like, okay, maybe things can turn around. Maybe we can reverse some of the damage we've done. And so I'm excited about this song. And I think another project that is always going to be my favorite, one of my favorites ever, is the compost song, because compost is the same. It's kind of the same concept, going from death to life. Composting. It's just such a basic, fundamental idea and function of the earth that I'm still just like shocked that I grew up in a world where people threw organic matter into plastic bags and shipped it off to landfills. It's like, how did we get here? But the compost song means a lot to me because it really shows that New York City has that resilience and that eco heart, that green heart here somewhere. And you would never know it. You would never think that New York City has this robust compost community. So that video and that song mean a lot to me.
Mm-hmm. It's really lovely to listen to you talk about your projects, actually. I'd love to hear about more.
Yeah, well, Dirty Talk is also pretty great because it's a song about soil, but it has so many sexual innuendos that it just makes people laugh and smile the whole way through, and they don't even realize how much they're learning about soil. Like how many words they're hearing that are like, oh, sand, silt, clay, like nematodes, they're like, wow. So I get excited whenever I perform that song because I know I'm about to people are about to be like, whoa, what did I just hear? And I love that song. But the veggie wraps are pretty fun. Kids love the veggie wraps and the ABCs of mushrooms. I love all the little projects that are like very short, kind of like bursts of information, because these are just like poems, but they come through so effectively when they're just like these little snippets. And with all the projects, what I love is like, oh, you don't necessarily have to hear the lyrics to enjoy this because it's fun and musical. But if you do hear it, you're gonna like hear all sorts of words that you don't normally hear in music, which is awesome to me.
Yeah, and also, so compost, soil, veggies, whatnot, but also you're posting videos about seahorses and
oh yeah,
rat bugs. Where does the inspiration for such more specific topics come from for you?
I have such a long list of songs I want to make. I mean, I want to make a song about everything on earth. So there's a lot. It's a lifetime job, I think. And the seahorse rap specifically is on a theme about how nature is queer. Because I think there's a lot of like social ill and discomfort around our sexualities and our gender. And there shouldn't really be, because if you just look at any other life form on Earth, you'll see that there's such a great diversity. And really, the health of species and the health of nature comes from biodiversity and comes from diversity. So why deny our human people that diversity to be whatever they want to be? And also, there's so much precedent for it in nature. Nature is super gay. Like, there's tons of rainbows and hermaphrodites and transsexuals and homosexuals in nature. Like, other animals don't confine to like binaries the way that we are always trying to put ourselves in. So I think that that's a really powerful message. And so the female seahorse with the big penis is is a great example of like how, you know, the male seahorse has the brood pouch and like gets inseminated with eggs, which is why we even call the female seahorse female, because she, you know, ejects eggs out of her penis and puts it in the male's brood pouch, and then he's the one that carries the seahorse babies through pregnancy and births them. So I think that's really cool. And bees are also super gender ambiguous. Like I don't think bees are gendered either. And not anyway, not in male and female binaries, but maybe that's another topic.
Yeah, I'm just like really appreciating. I have a theory that in this moment, and maybe in all moments, I just haven't had access to it. The earth is calling us up. It's kind of like, all right, it's time. And if you listen, the earth can tell you how you need to move. Mark uses the phrase like, how does the earth want to move through you? And what I'm appreciating is that I also think that the earth is filled with like a lot of joy and a lot of play and a lot of snuggle and cuddle and all of these like kind of sweet emotions that we don't typically think of when we think about activism. Yet, like what I'm hearing is like the earth is speaking its own sweetness and cuteness through you. It's like reminding us that like it doesn't take itself so seriously either. I mean, anybody who's watched, like I was just in Uganda and I did a gorilla trek and I watched this baby gorilla just fucking around for like 45 minutes, like playing on the tree, slapping the big silverback, which is the term for the alpha male of the family, is actually in this family one of the primary caretakers of the baby gorilla. So the little baby gorilla is like swinging in the tree and like swinging into the silverback, and the silverback meanwhile is like aggressively charging the humans. And it was just this interesting moment of like, there is so much that's happening in the feeling space of the planet that because we can't bear witness to other species in their environments, because we've created these modern cultures that live separate from wild animals, we don't remember that. You know, we've so othered animals. So I'm feeling that speaking through you. I'm feeling like the resonance. It's not just what you're talking about, it's how you're talking about it and like what you're inspired by. And like, I'm really just appreciating that.
Wow. Thank you so much. I love that. I've never heard that before, and that really speaks to me as well. There is so much joy and play in the world, and I definitely am accessing it. And that's how I feel about it. When I learn new things about nature and about the earth, I'm always just like in awe. It's like this childlike awe, because like I said before, like I didn't really have a lot of exposure as a child. So to me, this is all very new and very exciting and full of joy, really, to learn and to be like, oh, I'm connected to this and this and this. And yeah, learning about animals is amazing, because they're so fascinating, and we are animals, so you know, I feel like we're all connected.
Totally. Something I know, Julie, I want to pass it to you to ask another question, but I just have like one more thought that I'm thinking about. And that's like, you know, I do think that we are trying to communicate the joy and the presence and the complexity and the interdependency that is Earth. And it's hard to do that because we've also been taught that the only way to talk about that is through science. And science is in many ways like a very alienating, patriarchal, white Western medium. I'm not an anti-science person for the folks that are listening on the podcast. I'm just saying that it's not the only way to feel the truth, right? So that's the first thing, is that what I hear in your seahorse song, for example, is like the truth of nature is fucking absurd, and it's funny, and it's crisscross, and it's all the things. It's bizarre, it's wacky, it's wonky. And I don't know if I can feel that truth through a like longitudinal peer-reviewed study in Nature. So that's the first thing I'm thinking. And then the second thing that I'm thinking is I have to imagine that you've been influenced by psychedelics. Without knowing you at all, I get the sense that some of these downloads are coming to you through the master plants, whether that's psilocybin or ayahuasca or whatever plant you choose to be your teacher. I like really hear that in your work. And like,
Yeah.
without wanting to put,
No,
talk
no,
very
I
quickly.
think I would love to actually start communicating more about psychedelics because especially now that I'm going to MycoFest, I think it'll be a great opportunity to share with the world that I actually took psilocybin um, when I was 14. So I was very young, and I don't even think I knew what I was doing at the time, but me and my friend like got some at Union Square and like did it in my room one night. And I definitely think that psychedelics have influenced like a lot of my connection to just everything, really. Opened me up to being an artist over being something like a lawyer, which I actually wanted to be in middle school. I was very certain. I was like, I'm going to be a lawyer because I know how to communicate ideas. And I win arguments. So like I was like, yeah, I'm a lawyer. But then I did these mushrooms and I was like, I'm an artist. Like it was like such this moment of clarity where I knew that I had to write my own laws, instead of pushing the laws that exist. And I was like really interested in that. But again, I didn't have like a connection to trees. I wasn't out in the woods or anything like that. But then when I finally did go to the Catskills for like summer camp, the summer of seventh grade, that was my first time ever inside a forest, like hiking through a forest. And I remember vividly just being like, oh my gosh, this is the trippiest thing I've ever seen in my life. Like this must be what drugs are like because I have never experienced this majesty of like what nature is to someone who's never seen it like that. So it was really impactful. And yeah, I think that psychedelics can really open people up to feeling like love. And on the topic of science, right, it's like sometimes when we try to categorize things and give things names and identify, we lose parts of what they are to the categorization. So science doesn't have a modality really to discuss anything without those categorizations, which is why also with gender it's so difficult because we want to understand the sexuality and the reproduction and the behaviors of certain life forms, but we actually just don't even have the language to fully understand them and the behavior that we see that they exhibit. And I think that psychedelics really opens your mind up to the possibility that there are other worlds and there are other ways of thinking and maybe other dimensions and realities we may not be accessing all the time, or we may be accessing, but we just don't have it at the forefront of our consciousness. So I'm
Yeah.
definitely open to that.
I'm anticipating a song about psychedelics.
It should definitely happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you writing anything about the relationship between trees and humans communicating? Are you working on that?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, I don't have a lot of research about that I've done, but I definitely feel intuitively that trees are extremely, extremely important. And a lot of the research I've done about trees has, definitely validated that intuition that they are just our elders and our teachers and some of the most important life forms that we have around us. So it's so devastating whenever I hear about deforestation or what's happening at East River Park. I just it's too overwhelmingly sad. Actually, I don't know. The more that I connect with the earth, the more I connect with trees specifically. And yeah, it's I there's a lot of tree songs that I am like thinking about and writing, and our connection to the trees is something that I'm super, super inspired to learn more about.
Yeah. Well, also in the vein of sadness, an artist or somebody who is full of passion feels the broad spectrum of emotions. And so you have this lovely sunny disposition and this great outlook. But I also would love to hear, how do you manage anger about the world and sadness? And, why is that also important?
Yeah. To accept and honor the pain is definitely something that I believe has to happen, to acknowledge it. I think that sometimes it's really hard for me to even just like accept that I'm feeling sad. I don't want it to feel sad. So if I feel anger or sadness or depression, I'm like, oh God, this is so bad. I'm not being productive. I'm letting everyone down. Like these extra feelings come in this shame of actually, instead of just being like, okay, I'm sad. That's okay. That's fine. And I'm actually learning to do that a lot better. I think we were talking about meditation. Meditation is such a powerful tool. For me, I've gotten into running in the last 6 months, and it's become a huge part of my life. And that is the primary place where I meditate, is when I run. And I find that, doing things like that, where you can let your mind kind of just be and to let go of these feelings, truly to process them and let go of them. It's not very clear how it works, but eventually it does, right? It's like I'm building these like neural pathways that allow me to like see the emotion and the feeling and the thought and be like, like accept it, got it. But then also to let it go fairly quickly so that I can keep working on, because as long as I'm safe, as long as I'm good, I just have to keep remembering that that's the reality. Like I have a lot of gratitude for the fact that I most often am in a safe space and I'm breathing, and my days, are full of wonder and magic, and I'm free to just like do this work. And I think that is, accessing that gratitude is a huge part of overcoming the painful emotions.
So what was the first moment when you realized like, oh, this isn't like this jokey thing I do. This could be something more?
I don't know. Maybe I'm still realizing it. I think that it was never really a joke. I mean, I guess there was a point in the beginning when I was mostly doing just stand up, and just even rapping was kind of the joke. Like me being a rapper was funny to people. I would be like, I'm a rapper, and everyone would laugh. And I'm like, okay, I guess that's the joke. But then, even my name, right? Hila the Killa. It's like, there's something kind of funny and ironic about it. But then once I started doing it a lot and the reaction was like, oh, we like this. This is great. I felt like I could take it to a more serious place, to a more sincere place, and really express myself earnestly, which I always had like some trouble doing as a comedian. I think we tend to, use humor as a defense mechanism for the earnestness. Not, a lot of comedians don't do that. A lot of comedians do really open up and share their most sincere selves, which I love. But I know for me, it was like hard to get there. And I think that it's a process like anything else. Like I take myself very seriously now. So I'm like, okay, I really want this to work, and I want this to be more exactly like you said that it is. So, and but it is also funny. I also want people to laugh and feel like, oh, it's absurd, it's okay, So yeah, I guess it's like a balance of that, maybe.
But also, what was I mean, there had to be a moment when your first post went viral.
Yeah. So that, so when my Times Square, me rapping as the Earth in Times Square went viral, that was great, because the real moment, the moment that was captured was so absurd already. I mean, my speaker wasn't working. It kept cutting out. But because I'm dressed as a giant globe, there was a crowd forming around me. So everybody was like waiting for this thing to work. And I kept starting and it kept stopping. I kept starting and it kept stopping. And meanwhile, people are gathering around like, oh, this is going to work.
This is the Earth stopping. Because they're like, no, not enough people are here. Not enough people are here.
And I was like, oh my God, I don't know if it's gonna work. And then finally it worked. And everyone was like, oh, it's working. So I get into it. I do the song. I do Wet Ass Planet. This amazing woman joins me in dance. She's feeling it. Her friend's filming. We're all having a great time. And right as the song ends, the speaker dies and it starts raining.
Yeah.
And everyone disperses and I'm like, oh no, like trying to like put the speaker like to like so it doesn't get wet. And it was just so funny. And I don't even have like a full recording of that moment. I just have this like 12-second clip. But that 12 second clip went viral on TikTok. And it was like a light bulb moment of like, oh, me as the earth. That's the thing now. And yeah, I've been just focusing on that since.
Who designs your costumes?
A lot of different people actually. The banana peel and the apple core costumes came from Sexy Sustainability, and she's an incredible like environmental activist in New Jersey, and always like posting about different action items that we can do, calling different local like she's like really 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 cool activism, but also made those costumes from thrifted materials. So it's like it was a really holistic process in that sense. But then the earth was a collab. The shell around the earth was made by my friend Joy, Love Living Art, and she like just created like a shell basically to put around this balloon. It's like kind of like a beach ball, but it has armholes and a head hole, and it's really huge, and it's inflatable, and it's not the most eco-friendly thing. I'm actually working on a Earth 2.0, which Sexy Sustainability is going to be making. So it's more like something that it's not inflatable. It's more like a bone structure that I wear, and that the thing can go over. But we'll see how that kind of works out. But yeah, there's a lot of different people involved in the costume making. Some of the costumes I made the poop emoji costumes, and some of the cardboard like costumes I've made as well.
Mm.
And all of this stuff I've made.
Yeah,
I made
it's
this.
very
Cool.
sexy. I feel bummed for the people that are just listening to the podcast because they're missing the awesome visual of Hila the Killa in a earth blazer.
My earth blazer, yes. This is my business earth outfit.
Yeah, this is how you speak to the patriarchy and the patriarchy's terms.
If I was running for president, this is what I would wear.
So above and beyond like building new channels and new collaborations and like trying to reach more people, like what could you imagine sort of birthing around you to kind of amplify the work? Like what else do you think we need to kind of move towards our preferred future?
I think people need time to rest and enjoy life, be part of the world. Like, have time to go outside, have time to commune with trees, have time to go on hikes, have time to cook their own food, to know where their food comes from, to be healthy, to exercise, like just to exist and be. I think that like capitalism and the way that it prioritizes this acquisition of money over everything else is so um, destructive and painful. And there's certain places I feel like in society that money doesn't make any sense to prioritize or even think about, like healthcare, education, housing. Like these are just really housing. Like these are really basic things that we should be excited and wanting to provide to our community. You know, why wouldn't we want everybody to have a place to feel safe, to have a home, to have a garden, you know, to have some time outside? Like to me, like these are some of the most important things, and it really breaks my heart to know that like I personally cannot do that. You know, I can't just give everybody a home, you know, but I would love to. Like I would absolutely love to. And I think that, you know, when we start thinking like that, when we're like, oh, okay, well, how do we do that? Like, how do we provide homes for everybody, and how do we make them green homes so that they can participate in society? How do we like let go of some of these jobs that don't need to exist so that people don't have to work so much? because maybe people need to be working on other things like installing rooftop gardens and building out community gardens and cleaning the waters and cleaning our everyone should just have way more time, and the kinds of jobs that people have should be ones that are regenerative, that provide for the community, that make people feel good, and that utilize people's passions. Like, nobody should be doing anything they don't want to do. Like, we're on Earth. Like, this is absurd that we are here spinning in space around a star. And like, I think to get people to I would love to see more people having more time. I think also the pandemic showed that that is a really positive thing for a lot of people to just have time.
Yeah, I want to point people who are listening who want to see like what the frameworks for actualizing this wish are. Just Transitions does a really great job of imagining how we move people out of extractive sectors and into more regenerative ones. And I think the attempt to sort of start this conversation at the federal level is inside of the Green New Deal. So those are two great ways that our listeners can maybe take those big wishes of Hila the Killa and kind of see how people are running with them. Because my first response was, people are going to think we can't have this, right? We can't have an economy that serves basic life. And I think Americans especially believe that because of the kind of government and policies and ideologies that we've chosen to embrace whole hog. Right. But anybody who's been to Northern Europe, who knows that you can actually have government and people collaborating in ways that really take care of the essentials, the basic.
Wow. Where in Northern Europe? I gotta go there.
Yeah. Norway, Sweden.
One thing I just wanted to emphasize that is so part of your work that I love is, Earth Justice, for example, says, because the Earth needs a good lawyer or something like that. And the Earth does. But I love the way you say, we are the Earth too. There's this cognizance that we're connected to the Earth. We're not, we're not separate from what is happening in nature. We are nature. And I think so many people miss that. And we're stuck in our egos and we're just forgetting how important it is to be integrated with that. And I just want to say how much I appreciate that message because it's so simple, but it's so powerful.
That was so well said. Yeah, exactly. We are the Earth. That's what I was saying. Like, you're the Earth. And then actually, a lot of times in my shows, I'll take off the Earth and I'll have like another Earth thing underneath, but I'll let someone else be the Earth. I'll be like, who wants to be the Earth? And then like somebody can get in there and like dance and be the Earth for a second. But yeah, the connection. I mean, a lot of times, you'll hear people say, oh, humans are so terrible for the Earth, or we'll create national parks where people can't because, we're such a bad influence on the Earth. And I don't really agree with that. Like, I think that, it's about upbringing, it's about connecting, and people won't trash the Earth, and they won't if they feel that connection, if they know that, oh, if I throw this water bottle down here at this park, like that's like me basically sticking it in my mouth, like, and swallowing it, and if they get that, then they won't do it. They won't even buy the water bottle.
Yeah, I'm left with another example that I have from my recent trip to East Africa. I went to Tanzania and we heard a lot of stories, actually also in Uganda, around the guerrillas, of communities sort of being reoriented towards their animal resources as a sort of there's a partnership there. Like, the tourists with money come for the animals. So if we protect the environment for these animals, then we will be able to sustain our community. And granted, to travel in East Africa is insanely expensive because they've built the total cost of the experience into it, rather than in the States where we're still like, I want to pay $99 a night for a hotel and not ask myself, like, what does that mean for human labor? And what does that mean for their resources? But nevertheless, I was left thinking, like, even in situations where the community has historically, over the past 100 years, as we've displaced people and moved them into cities, and you can rectify and heal that relationship rather quickly. And the animal species and the plant species respond really rapidly to the correction. You know, the earth is so vital.
Resilient.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, resiliency is one of my favorite words.
We're almost out of time, so maybe last question.
Yeah, well, so I was wondering, Hila the Killa, who are you inspired by? And what inspires you? And what keeps you inspired?
Wow. I am tremendously inspired by the people in New York City who do eco work, any kind. People who are at Grow NYC, you know, Nicole from Clean Bushwick Initiative who runs all the cleanups, the compost community, anybody doing compost, the people at BK Rot, the people at Solar Hug, the people, anyone who's in this city that I was born into that I had no idea could ever be green, really, really inspire me. Even just like the activists at East River Park and Reverend Billy and like all of these people. I'm also really inspired by like Rob Greenfield and some other like, you know, more internet activism and artists like Patagonia. Anybody who's bringing art and fun into the environmental space that can like that is teaching me, you know, about things. I'm like really learning a lot, you know, from people who have found a way to communicate information in a fun and interesting way. So that helps me because it's also like a tool. Like for example, like Alexis Nicole, the Black Forager, she is a huge inspiration to me because I saw her platform just like grow. And all like what she was doing was just like, oh, I'm passionate about foraging. I know all this information about these plants. And I have this amazing personality. So I'm just gonna be shamelessly myself and tell people about these amazing plants. And her platform grew up so fast and so well. Like she's millions of followers. She's been written up in all these places. Like, so that to me is a huge inspiration because I'm like, oh, that's like me too. You know, like I see that as like me too, but I'm not like a vlogger as much as I'm just like create these little songs and these poems. So like my work is like a little bit slower. I don't generate as much content as fast, but I'm definitely like slowly growing. And the more that I make, I think people will connect with it and share it, and it'll be you know, accessible to more people and reach a wider audience. But yeah, that's what I'm really inspired by. I'm inspired by people who, you know, are in places like New York where it's so hard to, you know, move into a green place, actually still doing the work, like waking up every day and still doing it. So that's like, I call upon their strength to do what I do, which, you know, is very niche and different. Like, not a lot of people doing this exact thing. So I'm like, just really trying to keep it going.
Well, we're really grateful for you doing what you do, Hila the Killa.
Thank you.
Yeah, we really look forward to following your journey, and maybe you come back in season 2 and give us an update.
Thank you so much. I had such a wonderful time talking to you both. Like, didn't expect the conversation to go into all the places that it did, and it really, you know, expanded my heart, and I really am grateful for it. Thank you.
Yeah, so see you next time.
Great. Thanks.
All right.
Bye.